Welcome to the show. It's a very special TFIF on video. It's a European football special. Myself, Ross, along with my special guests, Arvind Sidhu, Craig Marias, and Bob Holmes, here to talk Europa League and Champions League action for you. Yeah, it's unprecedented the way the football's panned out this season. It's lasted a whole year, practically. But yeah, we're going to go through all the big games for you. As usual, follow us on social media. It's BFM Football on Instagram and on Facebook. And also, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, TFIF on video. Let's get on with it then, guys. Monday night. It's so much football. I forget when they all happen. Monday night, I believe, Man United needed extra time to defeat FC Copenhagen 1-0. It was Bruno Fernandes penalty. It was a muggy evening in Cologne, Germany. It was. I was reading that it was 32 degrees at kickoff time, and you kept seeing images of Paul Pogba pouring bottles of water over his head. But yeah, it was a disappointing game overall, especially in the first half, wasn't it, Craig, for Man United?
In the first half, yes. I thought, there's no real tempo to the game from United. We mentioned it before. There's a lot of expectation, a lot of pressure on them to win this because of the opponents. Obviously, it was a favourable draw from United, and from their point of view, it was a must-win game. We spoke about the importance of trophies at Old Trafford and for Solskjaer personally. And this is, they've reached 3 semi-finals now, and it's time to kick on with a trophy. I think it was tough because Copenhagen came, and Solskjaer, knowing the coach really well, knew that they would be a danger. Copenhagen were dangerous. They got the ball into dangerous areas in the penalty area, but without really testing Romero in the United goal. They broke through a few times, and you just think if they had that little bit more quality, it would have given United a little bit more. But fair play, whatever was said at halftime kind of worked because United came out in the second half, were much better, but they just couldn't convert their chances. And the keeper in the Copenhagen goal, my God, what an absolute blinder he had! Some of the saves he was pulling out, from Anthony Martial, especially was crazy. Second half, I thought United penetrated a lot better. I thought, Marcus Rashford still looked a little bit jaded. Maybe he's played a little bit too much football since he's come back from his 6. I think it was about 6 months he was out for. But yeah, overall, not a convincing win as such. But at this stage of the competition, like I've said forever, it's not so much about how you play; it's about getting through and getting it over the line. And United managed to find a way through. Albeit by a penalty.
Yeah, Bob, it didn't look like it because Copenhagen's goalkeeper, Carl-Johan Jonsson, was in inspired form. 13 saves he made.
Yeah, it's a record, I believe. And I thought the woodwork played pretty well too. United hit it about 4 times. I know at least one of them would have been offside anyway, but it just had the makings of one of those nights when the keeper plays a blinder, you hit the woodwork, it just won't go in no matter what you do.
Disallowed goals as well.
Disallowed goal, yeah, although correctly disallowed.
Yeah.
It had that look about it, which is what Ole Gunnar Solskjaer said. He must have been getting a bit worried, but it was United who got the late goal rather than the other way round, as has happened on a couple of other occasions, like last night, for example. The underdog has been scoring the late killer goal, and the favourite has not been able to respond, which has added another element to this tournament, hasn't it? I mean, normally 2 legs until the final. You've got chance. I mean, if you do concede a late goal, 89th minute, and you've got the home leg to come, you're not too worried about it. But in this instance, you've got 1 minute to do something. So it does add a definite major element, and I think that's why we're seeing the underdogs doing better in both competitions. You've got some of the big boys out, Juve, Real Madrid, knocked out already. I wouldn't be surprised if one of these teams wins at least one of the tournaments.
Yeah.
I think well, Man City are actually favourites, but they will be a new name on the trophy, the Champions League. But I think you could have a new name on both trophies, actually.
Yeah, that's a good point. FC Copenhagen were impressive, Arvind. Rasmus Falk is the name that comes to mind. I thought he had a superb game along with their goalkeeper.
Yeah, Rasmus Falk. I mean, everything went through him with Copenhagen. There was a point in the match where he did a bit of a Redondo-esque move where he tried to attempt assist and he just bypassed Fred and William together, and it made the United players not look very smart with that one. He's surely on the alert for other European teams. He spent most of his career at FC Copenhagen. But yeah, like what Craig said, with Copenhagen, the build-up play was good, but Mohamed Darame just couldn't finish for them. He just couldn't put the ball into the back of the net. United were pretty pedestrian in the first half. There was one part, if you noticed, during the water break, you could see Ole making a beeline towards Pogba and saying, pass the ball faster, because they just weren't moving it at the pace. But that could be down to the fact of how many games they've played so far this season. But interestingly enough, I looked at the stat. This was United's 21st penalty of the season. Yeah. 21st. Hull City took 15 years to get 21 penalties. It's absolutely crazy the amount of penalties they've gotten. But yeah, at the end of the day, I think no one would have thought that Copenhagen would have made it through. But a tougher test to come for United in the semis, and I'm sure we'll talk about that.
Sorry, Arvind, like I mentioned this before, and it's a stat that keeps coming up, this penalty thing. But out of the 21 penalties, like how many do you think were actually penalties? I mean, there's only one that I can think of that wasn't a penalty.
The one against Villa, yeah?
Yeah, that's the only one.
Yeah, I don't think so. There's been a doubt about the decisions that have gone United's way because, like you said, majority of them have been correct. But there will come a point where you wonder, is that the way that they're getting it across the line? I agree that at this stage of the season, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how you get through it, but you need to get through. But there will come a point where, is that what you are depending on at the end of the day? And they were playing FC Copenhagen here. Let's not beat around the bush on that.
Well,
I mean, there were sorry, Ross. There were 30 shots on target. That were taken 26. And 13 on target.
Yeah, but conversion, that's down to conversion. I mean, if you can't convert and you are depending on the penalties to get you through.
Keeper had a ridiculous game, though.
Yeah, he did.
Ole's already confirmed that Bruno will take both the penalties in the semi-final.
Yes, and probably the final as well if they get there. Yes.
We can't take him off then, can he?
No. But Juan Mata made a difference when he came on in extra time, and Craig, Anthony Martial this year, he's worthy of the number 9 shirt. He's hard to knock off, and you mentioned it before. He was the threat.
Yeah, it's not the first time he's had the number 9 for United. But he never got played in that central role, did he? He came as a winger. There's always been that question, is he a winger? Is he a striker? Especially within the United circles. I don't think any United manager, he was signed by Louis van Gaal, and subsequently Mourinho came in, and then now Solskjaer. I don't think either Van Gaal or Mourinho really had the balls to really say, look, you're going to be our centre forward this season, and trust him with that. You may argue, it was a time when there was Rooney there was Ibrahimovic, and you can understand why. But, when you make a decision to sell a proven goal scorer like Romelu Lukaku, who's done it in the Premier League for a number of years, and say, hey, you know what? You're going to have the number 9 shirt. You're going to be our centre forward for Manchester United, and not only for this season, for the coming years. I mean, it really gives a young player like Martial. I still think he's only about 23. I think a massive boost. I think he's learned as it's gone on. I mean, having that composure in front of goal is not easy. It's not something you can really teach. But what you can do is you can improve your finishing, and I think he has. Maybe in this instance on Monday, it wasn't exactly clinical finishing, But I mean, the way he was weaving in and out, and beating 5 players at one stage, and not just the once, a few times. If he can keep this kind of form, he's a threat to anyone. And you can see why when you have players like that running at you at pace and dribbling in and out, beating defenders left, right, centers, you can understand why United get so many penalties because, if he's dancing like that in the area, it's only a matter of time before someone makes a challenge and, all he does is just takes a touch out and it's
they even had one turned down a penalty because of offside, didn't they?
Yeah.
Well, Martial has bulked up in lockdown. And I think that's made a difference to him. Yeah. I mean, he did look as if he had the potential to be a number 9, but as we've said,
first came,
there were other players there. There were other number 9s, weren't there? Ivanisevic. Ibrahimovic. I'm getting mixed up with a tennis player.
Well, it is summer.
It should have been Wimbledon, shouldn't it? Yeah. So you can understand why he was shoved out to the wing. And he did look a bit frail, despite being a fairly tall guy. He did look on the frail side. And I think someone has told him, and he's taken heed of it. And he's a different player now. I mean, he's never going to be a Lukaku, but at least he is a fairly formidable physical presence in the number 9 spot, which is what you want. So he's made an enormous difference.
So Man United then are through to their 17th European semi-final, and it was a non-trademark hop penalty from Bruno Fernandes. That was Monday night. On Tuesday, Inter Milan played Bayer Leverkusen. The Italians progressed 2-1. Romelu Lukaku scored for a record 9th consecutive Europa League game, although 5 of them was for Everton. But they've got to be favourites, Inter Milan, Arvind, for you, don't you think?
No, actually no. When we talk later, I think Shakhtar is going to give them problems. But this was the classic Nerazzurri performance from Inter. You've got fans eating their fingernails towards the end because really they put themselves in really good positions, and then at the end of it, they look like they're going to struggle, or they look that they might throw it away. Let's keep in mind that this is an Inter that has been a season of misses for them. They were 1 point behind Juve in Serie A. They lost the semi-finals of the Coppa Italia to Napoli. So it's always been getting across that last step. This is their first European semi-final in a decade. So you can see that it's a mentality thing with Inter. But Lukaku has been great. I think the previous record was by Alan Shearer, 9 consecutive games. And he was just too strong. He was too strong for the goal. He's got some big goals for Inter in Europe. I know he scored against Barca. He's assisted against Dortmund. The previous round, he's winning goals against Getafe. So he's been a really bright spark for them in terms of the number of goals. But behind him, the cast, I thought Ashley Young was the best performer for Inter on that night. He was really good. Nico Barella, for me, reminds me of a young Dejan Stefanovic, where he just runs and runs and runs. He scored a sweet goal, and he could have gotten another. Goal, so it bodes well for Inter and Conte. My only gripe with them is they need to take that last step, which they have struggled for many years right now. And Shakhtar will give them problems, in my view, anyway, in the next round.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about that later. But Conte is stamping his mark, Bob, on this Inter side, albeit with a lot of EPL players. But it's working. I mean, they're second, 1 point behind Juve in the Serie A. Now they're, 2 steps away from winning their first trophy since 2011.
Yeah. Who won that? You remember, right?
Yeah.
Well, he'll never let us forget, will he?
No, he won't.
No, Conte, he's got something. I mean, he won the title with Chelsea in his first season. Let's not forget that. That was a really spectacular achievement. I mean, he was totally new to the game, English game, and really Chelsea were not favourites when that season started. But he managed to galvanize them and won it. And he narrowly missed this time against a Juve side with Ronaldo scoring 30-odd goals. so you'd have to say that Inter are serious candidates next season for Serie A.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Besides this, I'm like Arvind, I'm slightly surprised to see that they are the bookies' favourites for this title now.
Yeah.
United were until this round, until the stodgy performance against Copenhagen, and Inter are now marginally the favourites. But for me, I would say Seville are the favourites.
Okay.
I know we're going to talk about them in a bit, but I mean, but when you've got 3 or 4 different people having different favourites, that's a good thing.
That's a great thing. Yeah,
it's pretty wide open. You can argue a case for 3 of them, and even Shakhtar are not out of it by any means. They may be the dark horses, but they've got a chance, and they'd be encouraged by the fact that underdogs seem to be doing well in this format. You can go at teams, and if you get a lead, you can hang on to it, you can win. You haven't got to worry about the second leg. So Inter, yes, they're looking pretty good. Interesting that Conte, who never knew anything about English football, after 2 seasons, went back and signed a whole bunch of Premier League players. So he must have been impressed.
I think he wants more. He wants Smalling as well, doesn't he?
Yeah. Like it's taking a whole squad, Ross.
Yeah. But Ashley Young, I mean, not many people would have bought Ashley Young, would they?
No, and he's been good value.
Victor Moses.
Victor Moses.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, forgotten men, discards from their previous clubs, and yet he's turned them into something. So all credit to him. Yeah. I mean, he'd absolutely love to win this. You know, he made a big fuss when he won the title at Chelsea, and he's obviously got something. He's not everybody's cup of tea, but he makes enemies, rubs people the wrong way. But he's obviously a great motivator of players. And for the first season or 2 anyway, until they fall out with him. So I think next season, he's going to be a force. And I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't pick up this trophy.
Well, Inter are through to Tuesday's semi-final. On we go then to talk about Wolves. Their season's finally ended after 383 days. And it was heartbreak, Craig Marias, for Nuno and the boys. They just didn't have enough in the tank, and they can't afford to miss penalties against the likes of Sevilla, can they?
Yeah, exactly that. You know, we spoke about how long their season was on a show on Monday, and you know, you can't play games consecutively like over a year. I know that there was obviously that long layoff that we had, but you know, to come back in and to play the amount, and you know, when you're in the Premier League, you know, the levels, you know, just different. You know, the intensity of it. In these one-off games, you can't afford to miss penalties. You're right, Ross. You know, I mean, it's a 90-minute game. Every game's the final, and when you get chances like that, you know, you're really under pressure to put it away. In saying that, you know, it was an easy opposition. We knew going into this game that Sevilla were no pushovers. I mean, you know, they should literally name this competition the Sevilla Europa League or something like that, in honor of how many times that they've won it. So it wasn't an easy game going into it. The danger, which we pointed out, was, you know, what the fitness levels were like. We saw Wolves tailing off at the end of that Premier League season, looked very tired, very lethargic. You know, people like, you know, Jimenez, who missed the penalty. He's literally played every single game this season. Connor Cody's played literally every single game this season. It's not a big squad at Wolves. They don't have a squad where you can really rotate it that much. The quality, even if they do coming in, is, you know, you get some good youngsters that come in, you know, Morgan Gibbs-White, Pedro, but they're not first 11 players just yet. Fantastic talent that they have, but they're not ones that can come in and you know, have a very good game over a period of time. So there was always that danger. It's something that we highlighted, something that we knew. But, you know, in their opponents, you know, you don't take anything away from Sevilla because they were tough. And in the end, they were just peppering the Wolves goal, just trying to get that winner. And eventually it came. It was heartbreak for Wolves.
Heartbreak indeed. But Nuno and Wolves, Bob, can point a finger to VAR in this game because for the penalty, for Raul Jimenez's penalty, the goalie, Yassine Bonu, was clearly jumping off his line. There was encroachment. The referee tried to stop encroachment from one side of the penalty area, but Diego Carlos, I think, who was on the other side, clearly encroached. Not only that, he also headed clear the rebound. So, and that, amazingly, I mean, we saw it with the naked eye. And VAR, I'm surprised VAR doesn't look at things like that.
Yeah, I was going to say, it was one of those, it was so blatant, and by two people, that you would have expected the referee to spot it without VAR. But he didn't, and VAR didn't either, which is remarkable. And again, the question of VAR's usefulness has to be raised. If it's not seeing things like that, what's it there for? I mean, that was clear and obvious on two counts. Two offences by two different players had a major impact on the kick. I mean, they could have scored from the rebound, actually, if you look at it, if that guy hadn't encroached into the area. And admittedly, it was a very tame shot by Jimenez. He has to take most of the blame, but VAR has to take some of the blame. And again, every show we cannot help but mention this VAR. I mean, it's absolutely been a disaster. And why they keep going and they won't change it is absolutely beyond me. It's the fans' pet hate. The one thing that unites all fans, I think, is the implementation or lack of it of VAR.
Yeah. Yeah, no, we'd much rather take referee human mistakes. But
can I just say, Ross, on VAR, we've criticised it so much in the Premier League, but over the last week or so, we've seen it in European competition.
Yeah.
And it's been a lot worse than what we've seen over the
It has been,
in my opinion. I mean, you go back to a couple of the penalties at the Juve-Lyon game. And that was after VAR was used.
Exactly.
I mean, in this instance, we're not even talking about VAR being used, but that was when it was used, and they still came out with the wrong decisions. So it really beats me. I mean, I'm literally getting fed up with it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, the game's outstanding player, Arvind, was the Argentine Banega. He had 140 touches in the game, right? The entire Wolves team had no more than 44 touches. He made 118 passes, including the assist for the winner. Now, the last time Man United played Sevilla, Jose Mourinho tried to do a job on Banega, and that didn't work. He is a bit special. He's the man that teams have to watch.
Makes them tick.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's the absolute definition of where a game is won in midfield, because this man was an absolute star on the night. Again, everything went through him. And it's quite incredible that this is actually his last season with Sevilla. He's off to Saudi Arabia at the end of the season. So you can tell how much this means to him, that he wants to get them across the line. But yeah, I mean, Banega was great. Julius Conde at the back, I thought was impressive. Yeah. He took care of Raul Jimenez at most of the time. But yeah, on VAR, I have to state this as well. Ruben Neves went to the referee and he asked the referee, was VAR sleeping? The referee said yes. So when you have a disconnect between the referee and whoever's sitting in a box somewhere, that's when you show it's not working, because the referee himself said, yes, VAR was sleeping on that count. So yeah, again, I agree with Craig, I agree with Bob. VAR has done, UEFA will come out, FIFA will come out and say that most of the decisions have gone right. We've got a 95% success rate and all that, but when it really matters, it hasn't worked. So yeah, no. Unfortunate. Yeah.
Well, Raul Jimenez missed the penalty for Wolves for the first time, having scored on each of his previous 8. So unlucky Wolves, they're out of it. They have no European football next season as well. On we go then to discuss probably the most impressive team in the quarterfinals of the Europa League. Shakhtar Donetsk, they're really Brazil playing in orange. They trounced Basel of Switzerland 4-1 in Gelsenkirchen. There was no doubt this game, Bob, and they're great to watch, aren't they, Shakhtar?
They are. I mean, the fans' famous chant of "It's just like watching Brazil" is absolutely appropriate here, isn't it? I mean, it's mostly a Brazilian side. Quite how they qualify, I would like to see the details, because you can't just come in and do it, overnight. I mean, with so many, 8 or 9 players, I mean, they're not in the European Union, or there's none of that. So I think it's been allowed. It's been going on for years. So it must be legal.
I think they're all Ukrainian Brazilians in inverted commas.
Yeah, it is a bit of a surprise to find, especially in a country like Ukraine, where you've got 8 or 9 players who are from another country and the same country. Anyway, that's for the bureaucrats to figure out. We can't argue with the performance. They've certainly enhanced this competition. And I said dark horses earlier on. Don't be surprised if they win it.
Yeah.
The whole thing, because they've got that capacity. They've got the flair, and not that many of these are playing in the Brazil national side.
No,
they're
none,
more the fringe players. Yeah, some have, 1 or 2 have, and some are in the squad. But this is really second-tier Brazilian players, and they're lighting up. Certainly lighting up the Ukraine. They're lighting up the European competition here, and it just shows what depth Brazilian football has.
And
I mean, you could.
It also shows that I guess they've got good Brazilian scouting system going, haven't they?
They've got something special. I think for the final, I think we have to research this and find out just what the what the arrangement is, because it is a little bit unusual. Craig.
Yeah, so I read an article a few years back, and I think it was about all these Ukrainian clubs having Brazilian players, and what they do is it's more or less like a business model. They obviously go to Brazil. They get these young up and coming Brazilian players who obviously have never played for the national team. They buy a bunch of them over, and they have within Ukraine a Brazilian community, which they all have. So it's like a Brazilian town or something along those lines. And it's just a simple business model. They buy them on the cheap. They give them a better life, better wage, as compared to playing in the reserve team of a Brazilian league. They get them when they're 18, 19. Bring them over to Europe with the promise, you'll develop here. You'll play on a big stage, on a big European stage like the Champions League or the Europa League, and then we sell you on. I think Willian's a product of this, something similar to this. I think it was Anzi, wasn't he?
Fred came from there as well, didn't he?
Fred came from there. Yeah. So it's they use it as a platform. They pay them a lot more money than they are back home in South America. Within, I'm not sure if it's a specific town or anything like that, but there's a Brazilian community which they built. So you have, your Brazilian convenience stores and things like that. So they feel a lot closer to home. They don't get homesick. Obviously, the weather's a big factor. It's a massive difference from what they're used to. But, the overall game is to make the club a lot more money. They can get close to 100 times more than what they initially paid for them. And therefore, the players themselves get a much better wage than they were in Brazil. And, and once they get that big move on, they're instant millionaires.
Yeah. Shakhtar are 11 games unbeaten in all competitions. That's 9 wins and 2 draws. Junior Moraes has scored 25 goals in all competitions this term. Now, we've always known that they've had the flair, Arvind, but they've added defensive robustness this season, which actually makes them a lot more formidable.
They do, and let's not forget the fairy tale of them winning it in 2009. They have won this title at least a bit more recently than other teams. Taras Stepanako, he's the one that plays deeper. He kind of operates between the centre backs. Marcus Antonio, a lot of clubs have looked at him because he kind of covers a lot of territory for Shakhtar. But yeah, on the night itself, all the 4 goals. Brazilians, Junior Moraes, as you said, 4 of their players have been have been nominated to the Europa League Team of the Week. Dodo, Tyson, Marlos, Junior Moraes. So it shows on the day itself. I felt that watching all the games so far this week, they were the best performance of any of the night. Irresistible, dazzling, crisp passing, lovely team moves. So I really honestly feel they're actually probably a bit more than a dark horse for this because they've been there. They are a team that has grown and matured together, and I wouldn't put it past them to win this entire thing, really.
Brilliant. So then here is your Europa League semi-final draw then. It's Man United against Sevilla, which is quite close. You put probably Sevilla favourites in that one based on their experience in the cup. Shakhtar Donetsk will take on Inter. That one looks like a very tasty game. They're happening Monday and Tuesday, and we'll be talking about them next week. And on we go then to the Champions League. It's all top football this week we're talking about. Myself, Craig Marias, Bob Holmes, and Arvind Sidhu here. As usual, follow us on social media. Catch us every Monday on BFM Radio. Atalanta, their amazing run in the Champions League has come to an end. They were literally 2-3 minutes away from making the semi-finals against the multi-millionaires of PSG, but it was 2 late goals. It was a sensational comeback, and PSG make their first semi-final in 25 years. It's on their 50th year anniversary as well, Bob. So actually, we saw a side of Neymar, Bob, that we don't normally see. He actually plugged away, didn't he?
He did, yeah. He didn't have his shooting boots on, though, did he? He missed a few, dragged one horribly wide, the early one when he went through. But he completed a lot of dribbles, and he was looking a bit more like the old Neymar in those terms, and played a bit more as a team man. But you have to say, this game, this is one of those where you say there isn't a God, because this was the heartbreak story of the season, of the year. I mean, we spoke about Atalanta in the last show, about how they suffered most from the virus.
They're playing for the region, for the town.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It had all that, fans driving 50 miles to go and see home games, and the whole town emptied and went to the San Siro to watch them, lifted the whole place. And PSG, of all people, the most despised club in Europe, certainly in France, just big oil money, no team spirit. Well, not until last night, anyway.
Not until last night. Yeah.
It had everything, all the ingredients. If you're writing a novel or doing a Hollywood film script, you couldn't have set this up better for the good guys and the bad guys. And the good guys were winning until the 88th minute, and then it was snatched away from them. I mean, oh dear, I was really crying into my beer. I really wanted Atalanta to win this, and it was heartbreak. Of course, there's no time to come back. And it was just like when United beat Barcelona.
Yeah.
The Ole Gunnar Solskjaer finish, wasn't it?
Yeah.
One team's winning 1-0 for 80-odd minutes, 89 minutes. And then the other team gets not 1, but 2 in a couple of minutes.
Bayern, you mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say PSG were good value for the win, though.
who knew that you could, if you brought on £100 million plus player, he would make a difference. But after
promoting,
I was going to say after spending $9 billion on players, it only takes a free signing from Stoke City, Craig, to get you the winner.
Sorry to jump in there, but I did read about this, that Thomas Tuchel actually signed him to be the link man, and signed him partly for his personality and his language ability. This guy can speak 4 or 5 languages, and he has been the catalyst, and he's linked the team. He talks to everybody because he can speak their language.
I thought Tuchel was going to break his other leg the way he was reacting on his drink.
He wouldn't have minded, I think. He wouldn't have minded, really, to get that result. No. But Choupo-Moting was the hero. I mean, he scored about 4 goals in 30-odd games for Stoke City. He was in the relegated team, and he was let go. And he ends up playing for PSG, and now he's in the semi-final of the Champions League. I mean, there's a story for you.
I mean, the only thing I would say about Choupo-Moting is he's probably got the best agent in the game. I mean, how he's managed to get him that move. I mean, I know he scored the goal and everything. I mean, but I mean, when you're putting aside with that much talent, I mean, you're going to get opportunities, aren't you? I mean, with someone like Neymar and Mbappe, just feeding that ball in from wide areas. And as a striker, it's on a plate for you almost.
Yeah.
I love the Atalanta story. I really do. I mean, I feel for them, everything that they suffered over the last few months. I've got friends who are from Bergamo as well, who, obviously have a massive emotional attachment, especially with this game. I spoke to them before. And just to be in the position that they are, the success over the last couple of years in terms of league finishes, league positioning, and getting this far in the Champions League, it's a massive achievement. They always knew, coming up against PSG, you're going to have a tough game, especially with the quality that they have. I thought Atalanta did all right, but you always felt, though, that PSG was slightly the better team.
Well, when Mbappe came on, Atalanta you felt.
I mean, it was just no catching.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's no catching them. And, I know how fast Neymar is. I know how fast Mbappe is. But Atalanta just felt a little bit slower in terms of, just that slight movement and, away Neymar was. I mean, it showed the amount of yellow cards that they picked up as well. I mean, I think half their team was treading a thin line.
It didn't help that the guy who scored 4 goals didn't play. It was Ipswich.
Yeah, he's out with
personal reasons.
He's got personal reasons. Let's just put it down as that. He was always going to be a massive miss. But let's not forget, when PSG scored their 2 goals, Atalanta were effectively down to 10 men as well.
Yeah.
Freuler in the middle of the park, he pulled his hamstring on, and this is after Atalanta had made all their subs. So I mean, they've literally playing with 10 men as well, and they just got hit by a sucker punch. I felt for them, the manner of which they lost the game. But I think if you look at the overall, I thought PSG were good value for the win.
Agreed.
And as much as I despise them, and as Bob touched on, most hated team in Europe or possibly the world, they deserve to go through.
I actually don't know who's going to watch the semi-final because it's 2 not very like teams pitted against each other. PSG will now take on RB Leipzig of Germany, who surprisingly beat Atletico Madrid 2-1. It was a typically cautious Atletico Madrid. But I watched this last night, hence the very sleepy face today. And I thought Leipzig were good value for the win, Bob.
Yeah. I don't think
considering you haven't got your £54 million Timo Werner who scored 34 goals for you, they did all right, didn't they?
They did actually. I was a bit disappointed in Atletico. I mean, they packed their defense, which they do against Real Madrid and Barcelona and all that. But this is RB Leipzig they were playing, I mean, I think they should have been a bit more ambitious. And I think Simeone, he missed the crowd. I think he's the manager that misses the crowd the most, the way he works the crowd. Wasn't able to do that, that trick of his. And I think they'll look at it as a missed opportunity. I think they were certain people's dark horses actually for the title, because they, you know, you could just see them parking the bus against Man City and having about 5% possession and somehow sneaking a goal and winning it.
With the tournament at home as well.
Yeah. Simeone would have loved that. But it wasn't to be. And Leipzig, what a story they have. I mean, you think this would appeal to the romantic. I mean, they've come up from they didn't exist. They've come up from nothing, all through the German divisions. They got promotion practically every year for the last 10 years. And now they're in the semi-finals of the Champions League. But most of Germany hates them because they're seen to have not bent the rules, but crawled in through a tiny loophole in the rules to get around this 50+1 thing that Germany has in place to protect them from the bad foreign owners, the likes of the Glazers and such. So most of Germany, almost all of Germany, has got this real dislike for RB Leipzig or any RB team, RB Salzburg as well, although they're in Austria. It's the same thing. They don't like the way Red Bull operates. It's not a particular dislike of Red Bull, it's the principle that's at stake. They don't like the idea of a big company muscling in. So can you imagine what they'd think of the Qataris who own PSG, for example? I mean, what they've done. Or the Abu Dhabis who own Man City. I mean, Red Bull are small beer compared to those, aren't they? So, and they play good football.
They do.
They encourage youngsters. I mean, they do everything right except what they did wrong, if you see what I mean.
which is not down to the players, really, or
with
the
rules.
Yeah.
They sort of went around the rules. But as a team, a little team, a non-existent team, coming up and playing attractive football, encouraging youngsters, selling the better players off to the big boys to finance the whole thing, they're almost a model club.
Yeah.
But they're not liked. They're not liked. But I don't think they're disliked outside of Germany particularly.
No,
people are mystified as to why they are disliked, actually. And they've got a bright young manager in Nagelsmann. I mean, he's the new Klopp, isn't he? He's only 33 years old, 20 years younger than Klopp, and a very charismatic, very tactically aware young guy whose own career was cut short through injury, but he's gone into management at a very young age and he looks the business. I think you're going to see him coaching at a very high level for a long time. So yeah, mixed feelings really on Leipzig. They've not, it's like, well, they've not done anything against me kind of thing, even though other people dislike them. So, well, I mean, I think we have to judge them just on their football.
Well,
and, Havertz is the big man, isn't he? Supposed to have agreed terms with Chelsea for 90 million. Getting mixed up with Leverkusen. Yeah, I did see him play the other night. Yeah. But they got 50 million for Timo Werner, and they also had Naby Keita, didn't they?
Yeah.
And he came from Salzburg, so that was an internal transfer, RB to RB.
Their 21-year-old French defender was standout, Dayot Upamecano. Yeah, he played in the back three. I was reading he had a 91% pass accuracy rate in the game, which is amazing.
He's the next big one, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's the next big one. He got a little bit lucky though with the challenge in the penalty area.
He did.
Which they gave us a dive. But this Leipzig, I mean, you spoke a lot about Leipzig, but I think from Atletico's point of view, we knew how they were going to line up. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen an Atletico side that would go out and attack a game. I mean, I think Simeone is built on, on the counter. We'll sit back, we'll defend, we'll soak it up, and then we'll see what we got going forward. And
disappointing. It was, yeah,
very, very disappointing, because you look at the quality that they do have going forward, and they've got some really good players. And you look at João Felix and came for a lot of money. Why hasn't he flourished as much as we expected? I just think he's playing in a wrong system with the wrong manager, who's very hell bent on soaking it up. Doesn't matter who he plays. It really doesn't. I mean, the tactics don't change. You don't see much fluidity about that tactical side of him. It's Leipzig. It was there. They were there for the taking. He knew he could get at them, but he chose to step back, and he just got it all wrong, really.
All right. Well, it's PSG versus Leipzig in one semi-final. The other two quarterfinals are yet to be played. Barcelona take on Bayern Munich on Saturday morning, our time. It's a 3 a.m. kickoff. Arvind, arguably, this is the pick of the quarterfinals in this year's Champions League.
Yeah, and just like a big boxing match or a big WWE feud, you've got a lot of pre-match talk for this one. You've got Lothar Matthäus coming out and saying the Germans would only fail to reach the semi-finals if they make huge mistakes. You've got Antoine Griezmann coming out and saying, I've brought my PlayStation with me to Lisbon. I'm keeping it till the end because we're going to be here to the final. You've got Vidal coming out and saying to Bayern, you're not playing a Bundesliga team, you're playing Barcelona, the best team in the world, which they are not at this moment in time. So it's been dominated with a lot of pre-match talk before this game, and rightfully so, because you've got the only two teams left that who actually have won the Champions League. Once get knocked out from here, they're going to be competing with three other teams that have not won this tournament. But yeah, I mean, when you look at this from a perspective of how the teams have been, Bayern have just been on a different level. I mean, in terms of their win rate, 26 wins out of 27, one draw. Lewandowski is just banging in the goals. Muller seems to be in the form of his life. An interesting duel is definitely going to be Lionel Messi against Alphonso Davies, and they've come up and they've talked about that. I honestly feel that we've talked a lot about Andy Robertson being a very good left back, but in my view, Alphonso Davies is the best left back in the world. He's fast, he's defensively sound, he can recover.
Apparently he's going to take care of Messi. Right.
Yeah, exactly. So that's going to be very interesting. Yeah. Him and David Alaba on the left-hand side. So that's going to be very interesting. I think Bayern will miss out a bit that Joshua Kimmich has to do at right back because Pavard is injured, so they're going to miss him a little bit in midfield. But at the end of the day, of course, you've got Bayern, everything going well, but then you've got Messi on the other side, which anything could happen. But I just feel Bayern will eke this out for the form that they're in right now.
Well, a lot of credit has to go to Hansi Flick, who has masterminded a turnaround since taking charge in November. Moving on to Barca and Kiki Setien. He's only been in charge, Bob, for a couple of months, but you get the feeling that he really needs to win this Champions League to keep his job for next season.
Well, yes. I mean, he was, to say that he was a surprise choice is putting it mildly. They didn't know who to turn to. I thought they sacked Valverde prematurely. They were top of the league, still in the Champions League when he was sacked, but that's not good enough for Barcelona sometimes. And they picked a guy who just had a record of liking Johan Cruyff and his football, and they were fairly safe that he was going to encourage attractive play, and got Messi's approval, and then asked him to come and take charge. And he's obviously not got the authority that an established manager would have over the dressing room, but the players didn't mind because they're basically running the show. I think Messi seems to be a de facto manager now.
Yeah,
everything has to go through him. And if they lose this, even if they get to the final and lose, he'll probably go. I think he's basically got to win the title, win the Champions League. to keep his job, and even then, it's not certain, is it? Depends who else is available, who comes onto the market. Pochettino would be the obvious one, but the fact that he was at Espanyol and didn't make many friends at Barcelona and has rubbished them since then, and they've rubbished him, that would make that a rather difficult appointment. But Pochettino's had a long rest and is the most eligible big-name manager in the business now. And Barcelona, the most eligible club that needs a manager. But it probably won't happen because of what I've just said, the past animosities. Getting back to this game, you can never write off a messy team. I agree with Arvind that Barcelona Bayern are superior to Barcelona in just about every department, apart from Messi. And he is capable.
He counts for a few players, doesn't he?
He does. He counts for 3 or 4, or can do on his day. And he's still very, very good. He's not at his peak, but he's still fantastic. And he's quite capable of turning it on here and winning this game. So you can't confidently dismiss Barca, although on paper and on form, Bayern have got to be favourites.
So some early team news. Ousmane Dembele is recovering from injury. He actually hasn't featured, but he is part of the squad. Bayern are going to be without Benjamin Pavard, who has an ankle injury. Philippe Coutinho is available to face his parent club. Whether he will or not, that's another thing. It is a 3 a.m. kickoff. It is the standout quarterfinal tie in the Champions League. It's Barcelona against Bayern Munich, 3 a.m. Saturday morning. The winners of that one will take on the winners of Man City versus Lyon. This one is a Sunday 3 a.m. kickoff. City comfortably qualified. They're going to be quietly confident, Craig.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we've spoken about what City have achieved over the years since the takeover, and this is the next big step to really establish themselves as a European powerhouse. And you look at all your super clubs within Europe. They've all got European trophies to their name. City don't, and this is a big season for Pep Guardiola. They were almost embarrassed in the league this season by Liverpool, and a chance to redeem themselves in Europe is just so big for Man City and what it would mean for Pep Guardiola and the club as a whole. Now, this is something that they've been building towards. With their recruitment over the years, they spent a lot of money. It would really be the icing on the cake. And Lyon aren't going to be pushovers. I thought Man City were fantastic against Real Madrid. I really did, but I didn't expect them to beat Real Madrid. I thought in every department they were better. And going into this game, it's a tough one because Lyon, not many people expected them to get this far. They're playing a Mickey Mouse league, as people say, and to beat one of the favourites, in Juventus, is no easy task. So they've done the hard work, but now it gets harder for them. There's been a lot of pressure and speculation in towards Bayern and saying that they're the favourites, but you want to talk about dark horses. Surprisingly enough, Man City are dark horses. You're talking about a competition where there's still Bayern and Barcelona in it. Yes, one of them will get knocked out, but you're talking about a competition which Man City aren't. Despite the money that they spend, they're not considered the favourites. So it's a difficult situation. With that comes pressure. I think for Pep, he will tell the players, how important it is to win this match and almost salvage their season. But it's a great chance to write another chapter in their history.
Absolutely. Rudy Garcia's Lyon will undoubtedly go into this one as underdogs, but they have attacking talent in their squad. Memphis Depay has scored 9 in 13. Moussa Dembele has netted 16 goals this season. So that one could be intriguing. Lyon without any pressure going into it. It's Man City versus Lyon Sunday, 3 a.m. kickoff. That's your Champions League. They're all coming thick and fast because your Europa League semi-finals is also happening over the weekend. Sevilla take on Manchester United in the first semi-final. This one is a Sunday match. It's a 3 a.m. Monday kickoff for us. It's going to take place in Cologne. Sevilla are now 19 games unbeaten in all competitions. They're hitting form at the right time, Arvind. They go into this tie against Man United probably as favourites, don't they?
They are slight favourites, I would say. I honestly feel this is going to be a very tight affair because Sevilla they have a lot of possession, as you know. We talked about it earlier. They bossed possession against Wolves. I think they've got an average possession of about 66.3 in the overall competition. Every time they reach the quarterfinals of this competition, they win it, right? So, but at the end, but when you look at the flip side of it, Sevilla don't really score that many goals. They're depending on the likes of Lucas Ocampos to help them out. Yusuf El-Nesri has never been the most prolific of strikers. And then with United, it's been, at one point with Ole, they were playing really vibrant, really attacking football. But as the season has gone on, they kind of just, getting across the line a little bit.
Yeah.
The key will be for them to keep Eva Banega quiet. So it's going to be, I feel it's really going to be a very tight affair because I've looked at the stats. Sevilla have got, I think, 7 clean sheets out of 10. United is 8 in 11. Both the teams don't seem to be scoring a lot of goals. So, but because of the experience that Sevilla have in this competition and the way that Lopetegui has got them playing, very possession based, they chip away at you and they somehow get that goal, but in an attractive manner. I'm just putting Sevilla for a slight favourites on this one.
Julian Lopetegui is in charge of Sevilla these days. He tends to play 4-3-3, which morphs into a 4-5-1. He's got his 2 attacking fullbacks, Sergio Reguilon and Jesus Navas, bombing up the sides. But, Bob, it is about keeping Eva Banega quiet in that central midfield for Man United, isn't it?
Yes, I know what Mourinho would do if he was managing United. I think Ole. He's not a soft. Yeah, I think you might see McTominay playing with a specific role.
Who would you start
there.
in goal for Man United for this one?
I'd go for Romero. I like Romero. I think he's a really top keeper. I'm surprised that he's been content to stay there and play second fiddle to De Gea for so long. And I'm surprised that no one else has tried to prize him away. I think he's a top keeper. I can't remember him letting United down. I really cannot remember. You, Craig, you will watch them more closely than I have. Can you remember a Sergio Romero?
No,
costly mistake.
No, I can't. And I mean, it might be due to the fact he doesn't play a lot of games as well. But whenever he's been called upon,
that's right. He never lets you down. But I think Sevilla have got the edge here. Their experience in this, their record against English Premier League teams. Yeah. Don't forget they beat Liverpool in the final in 2016. They've just beaten Wolves. They beat Middlesbrough, if you want to. That's not really relevant, but I'll throw it in.
That's massive, that one.
But what is relevant is they beat United 2 years ago. Yes. Knocked them out of the Champions League. Yeah. So that's probably a little more relevant than Middlesbrough under the Wally. So, I think Seville have got that about them. I agree. They don't score enough goals. If they scored goals, they'd be really a serious team. But defensively and in midfield with Eva Banega running the show, they're a very, very good team in Europe. And I give them the edge.
Craig, what would you change for Man United from the last game to this one? We've spoken about the goalie, but, I mean, they're showing signs of tiredness. They've got to find some reserves in them. They've got the pace to hurt Sevilla with their forward line, haven't they?
Yeah, they definitely do. But, I'll go back to what I said just now when United faced Copenhagen. I thought Rashford looked a little bit leggy.
He did.
I thought, Greenwood wasn't as effective as we could have. I know he got the disallowed goal, but really apart from that, there wasn't much from the right-hand side. It would be a big call to drop Marcus Rashford. But what I would do is I'd probably look to giving Greenwood a rest and maybe bring him off the bench on the 60th minute. Maybe give Dan James or Juan Mata, we spoke
Juan
about his
Mata,
influence.
yeah, exactly.
His influence. And again, the only thing, that I would say again would be, his lack of pace, suiting to, your three attacking players and the way that United play. I just don't think it goes. But, it could be an opportunity for Lingard or Dan James. Lingard slowly coming back into a bit of form, as we saw at the tail end of the season. So I think in the middle of the park, we spoke about Banega's influence on that Sevilla team. And Bob said, McTominay back into the heart of midfield. Matic didn't start. I mean, what about Nemanja Matic coming back into that midfield
instead of Fred? Yeah.
Yeah. Bruno's looked a little bit tired as well. There have been a lot of leggy performances.
They need him for the penalties, Craig. They need
him. Yeah, 100%. I was just going to say, but he might not do anything for 80 minutes, but once you get that penalty, it could be effective. Don't forget, he hit the post though.
He did.
Monday night.
Yeah.
With a strike.
Yeah,
I'd probably give Greenwood a breather. I'll probably bring Matic into the midfield just to shore it up a little bit more, especially with his experience. And I'll probably just go for that pace of Dan James to really have a run at them on the right. But saying that, Sevilla do have it's actually Real Madrid's left back, but the left back of the season, isn't he?
Yeah.
I think he's just been nominated in La Liga and got big clubs like Everton and Chelsea after him. So Reguilon?
Yeah.
Is that,
Sergio Reguilon.
Yeah. Yes, Sergio Reguilon. Yes.
Yeah. So it's not going to be an easy task for whoever gets put on the right hand side. It's going to be a fantastic match. It's tight. I think Sevilla are going to be favourites. But obviously my heart's red, so I'm going to go with United.
It's a 3 a.m. kickoff Monday morning, Sevilla against Man United. The other semi-final then is Inter Milan against Shakhtar Donetsk. It's going to be played in Dusseldorf. I know you're looking forward to this one, Arvind. Can the underdogs do it? Can the Brazilians in orange pull one off here?
Yeah, they can. And when you look at the flip side of Sevilla and United, which I think will be a cagey affair, you've got two teams here with a lot of firepower. This is, for me, the more... United and Sevilla will be a tactical battle, will be a possession-based battle, but these are two teams which score a lot of goals. Inter Milan, I believe they've scored 2 goals in the last 4 games at a minimum. Conte's preferred 3-5-2. He builds from the back, but he attracts the opponent's pressing and then he hits them usually with a long ball across to Lukaku. But with Shakhtar, I honestly feel as the season goes on, and we always look at tournaments like this, which is a team that is gradually improving and gradually playing better. I feel that they are the team in the ascendancy. They play possession-based football, but in a very attractive style. Luis Castro, their manager, has actually taken a lot of their learnings from Mirka Lucasco, who did a lot of good work for them. So, the mentality of Inter, we've talked about that, and the feeling that a lot of people will not be thinking that Shakhtar need to do this, so the pressure will not be on Shakhtar. I just have a sneaky feeling that Shakhtar are going to do this and make their way to the final.
Wow. What do you reckon, Bob? This one is slightly more open than the Man United Sevilla one, Inter Shakhtar.
It'll be a more open game, definitely. Yeah. I agree. I think, you're going to see one cagey semi-final and one open one, which could go either way. But I've got a sneaking feeling Shakhtar could do it as well. But I wonder who the other two would rather play. United, do you think they'd prefer to play Shakhtar in the final or Inter Milan in the final?
I think they'd probably prefer Inter, wouldn't they?
They prefer Inter.
Who would you say then, Craig? They'd prefer Inter. I think Inter, so, yeah, because you know what you're getting more, don't you?
Exactly.
Exactly.
Shakhtar have this sort of wild card factor.
Yeah, it's that, and I think with the Brazilian flair that they have, there's going to be a lot of movement, a lot of trickery. I mean, we've seen how Shakhtar attack. As Arvind said, they're very good attacking base side. I think with United and with Inter Milan, especially, with the knowledge of a lot of their players, especially you go down to Conte, you know how he likes to line up his teams. I think it'll just be an easier read in a tactical way for United and Solskjaer. rather than, you know, Shakhtar, which you said, you know, the wild cards and the Brazilian flair and everything. I think they'll be having a big factor in it. But I actually, you know, a few shows ago said Inter Milan to be favourites for this competition. I'll have to stick with that. So I expect them to beat Shakhtar.
So there you go. Your semi-final lineup then. Sevilla against Manchester United. It's a Monday 3 a.m. kickoff. Inter Milan versus Shakhtar Donetsk is a Tuesday 3 a.m. kickoff. Lots of football for you to watch over the weekend. Just enough time to get a few predictions from the guys. And we're going to start with you, Arvind. Out of all the games, which one takes your fancy and what do you reckon?
Obviously, the tie of the round really is Bayern and Barcelona because of the superstars on show. But I've spoken about it. I'm really looking forward to Shakhtar and Inter. I think the way that the teams both play is very contrasting styles. My prediction is going to be a Shakhtar and Sevilla final, with Sevilla going on to win it for a record-extending 4th time. So yeah, that's my prediction. But the tie that I'm really looking forward to, as naturally anyone would be tonight's big one.
Brilliant stuff. Bob, what's your big shout for the weekend?
Well, I agree with Arvind there about the Europa League. Big shout. I think it's not very big. I mean, I think Bayern will beat Barcelona tonight. I really can't see anybody to touch Bayern. Can I include my final forecast as well? I take Bayern to win the whole thing. They've been the most impressive team. They started back earlier than anybody else. And I think they're going to benefit from that. They're very, very organized and a complete team. I think they could well dominate for a couple of years, in fact. I'd go that far. Brilliant.
Craig, what do you think for the weekend?
Yeah, the boys have mentioned it. Yeah, tying the round, I think, goes without saying. Is tonight's match in the Champions League. But since the boys both tipped Sevilla to make it to the final, I'd have to go United. So I guess there's going to be an upset. And yeah, I've got to back the boys. I think they'll somehow try and see it over the line. Might not be the best game of football that you're going to see in the competition.
But you really don't care when it comes to the semi-finals, do you?
No, I mean it's a one-off match.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
It's a one-off match. So I'm going to go for United to make it to the final.
Brilliant stuff. Hopefully we have set you up nice and proper for the weekend's football. That's it for me and the lads. Many thanks to Arvind, to Bob, to Craig, and thanks to you guys for watching. We're back on radio Monday and back here next Friday. Bye now.